On my wedding anniversary with Shawn, as anticipated, he was late once again. When the car window rolled down, my first sight was not of him, but of his childhood sweetheart in the passenger seat. A glance at my watch confirmed he was precisely 1 minute late. Before he could speak further, I slammed the pre-drafted divorce agreement onto his car hood and said, "Shawn, let's get a divorce." He laughed in a fit of rage. "Wendy, what madness has gripped you now? I was only 1 minute late. Do you really need to make such a scene?" I regarded him calmly and said, "You weren't late, you simply chose her over your wife when faced with your lover and me." "Sister-in-law, don't blame Shawn, it's my fault, I shouldn't have asked him to drive me," Summer said, on the brink of tears. Shawn immediately stepped in front of her protectively, addressing me, "Wendy, stop being unreasonable, Summer isn't feeling well." That instinctive act of defense made me realize what it means to have a heart rendered lifeless. A potent scent of gardenia perfume wafted from the car, so overpowering it nauseated me. It was Summer's habitual fragrance, despite my explicit warning to Shawn about my severe allergy to it. He remembered her preferences but disregarded my sensitivities. "Shawn, do you recall my allergy?" I asked. He hesitated briefly before waving his hand impatiently. "This isn't the time to discuss that." Summer coughed twice at an opportune moment, leaning weakly against the seat. "Shawn, have I caused trouble for you again?" Shawn turned back with concern. "Don't overthink it, your health matters most." Observing their affectionate demeanor, I noted that the passenger seat, once exclusively mine, now held another woman. Her bag occupied the spot where I used to place mine, and her water bottle rested in my designated cup holder. Shawn snatched the divorce agreement from the car hood, crumpled it without a glance, and flung it forcefully to the ground. "Wendy, I don't have time for your childish antics." Summer timidly bent to retrieve it. "Shawn, don't be angry, sister-in-law must have misunderstood something." As she looked up at me, a fleeting glint of triumph passed through her eyes. I sneered, "Misunderstanding? Then is the lipstick mark on your neck also a misunderstanding?" Shawn instinctively touched his neck, his expression darkening instantly. Summer gasped, covering her mouth as tears fell. "Sister-in-law, it was an accident, it happened while I was adjusting Shawn's tie." Shawn erupted in embarrassed fury. "You followed me?" "Followed?" I laughed bitterly. "Shawn, today is our wedding anniversary. I was only 1 minute late." He interrupted impatiently. "Must you ruin our anniversary over a single minute?" He referenced the anniversary, yet his tone accused me of overreacting. "It's not I who ruined the anniversary, it's you." Shawn pulled a wrapped gift from his pocket and handed it to Summer without sparing me a glance. "Summer, this is for you, stop crying." My breath caught in my throat. It was the necklace I had admired while shopping with him, which he had dismissed as too ostentatious for me. Now, he personally gave it to another woman. Summer accepted it with delight. "Shawn, this is too valuable." "Take it, as long as you like it," Shawn coaxed her gently, displaying a patience I had never witnessed. "Shawn, do you remember what day it is?" I asked one final time. He frowned irritably. "Of course I remember, it's our anniversary. But Summer has a fever, I can't just let her suffer, can I?" "A fever?" I glanced at Summer. Her cheeks were rosy, her demeanor vibrant, she hardly resembled someone ill. Sensing my skepticism, she murmured, "Perhaps the fever reducer helped a bit." Shawn immediately touched her forehead with concern. "It's still warm, I'll take you to the hospital." "Go ahead," I turned away, unwilling to face the jarring scene. "I'll have the lawyer draft a new divorce agreement and send it to you." "Wendy!" Shawn called after me, "Stop this nonsense and go home to wait for me." Upon returning home, Shawn was waiting in the living room, his face grim. "Wendy, have you had enough of this tantrum?" he asked, extinguishing his cigarette. Ignoring him, I headed straight to the bedroom to pack, a few changes of clothes, cosmetics, and a photo of our daughter, Nora. "Can't you understand me?" I said. "I'm not divorcing." Shawn leaned forward, gripping my wrist with such force that I winced. "Let go," I shook him off. "Shawn, it's you who doesn't comprehend. We're finished." Seeing me place Nora's photo in the suitcase, his tone softened. "Think of Nora, she's only 3, Can you bear to leave her without a complete family? My hands paused momentarily. Nora is so young, she adores being lifted high by her father and watching cartoons together as a family of 3. Wendy, let's talk this through properly, for Nora's sake. Seeing my hesitation, Shawn pressed his advantage. I retrieved my phone and played a recording. Summer's smug voice emerged. How could that washed-up Wendy compare to me? Shawn's heart has long been mine. He said he only married her to appease his family. And that little girl of theirs doesn't resemble Shawn at all. Who knows whose illegitimate child she might be? Shawn's face turned deathly pale in an instant. Shawn said that in a couple of years, once the dust settles, he'd find an excuse to divorce that washed-up woman. Then I could rightfully become his wife. That foolish woman still thinks Shawn loves her. It's laughable. I stopped the recording and stared at him coldly. Shawn, what else can you say? Wendy, let me explain. Explain what? How you two were entangled in our marital bed. Or when you planned to cast my daughter and me out. Shawn opened his mouth but couldn't utter a single word. I resumed packing. Shawn, I'll fight for Nora's custody to the end. Do you think a judge would grant a child to a man guilty of infidelity and domestic violence? Domestic violence? When have I ever abused you? Shawn grew anxious. I rolled up my sleeve, revealing the red marks on my wrist from his earlier grip. Does this not count? And this, I lifted my bangs to show a faint scar on my forehead, from when you threw a cup last month. Shawn fell utterly silent. I zipped up the suitcase. In 3 days, my lawyer will formally file a lawsuit against you. Shawn, this time I mean it. Wendy. He blocked the doorway. You can't take Nora. Let's see what the judge decides, I said, stepping around him toward the exit. From behind came Shawn's near-desperate voice. Wendy, if you insist on a divorce, I'll leave with nothing, but Nora must stay with me. I turned back. Shawn, do you deserve her? As I finished speaking, my phone rang. It was Nora's kindergarten teacher. Wendy, Nora has a fever, can you come pick her up? My heart clenched. I'll be right there. Shawn trailed me. I'll drive you. No need. At the kindergarten, Nora's little face was flushed red as she cried and threw herself into my arms. Mommy, Nora feels bad. I lifted her, my heart aching deeply. Daddy. Nora spotted Shawn and reached out her little arms. Shawn took her, and she calmed down instantly. Watching this father-daughter scene, my emotions were a tangled mix. To the hospital, I said. At the hospital, Nora received an 4 drip while Shawn stayed by her bedside, tenderly comforting her with a gentleness that left me momentarily dazed. Mommy, is it because Nora is sick that Daddy and Mommy aren't fighting? Nora asked in her sweet, childish voice. Shawn and I fell silent simultaneously. Nora, be good and rest, I said, gently stroking her little face. Shawn suddenly spoke. Wendy, can we try again? For Nora's sake. Gazing into his earnest eyes, my resolve began to waver. Perhaps, for Nora. Then, Shawn's phone rang. Caller ID, Summer. I let out a cold laugh. Answer it. Why aren't you picking up? Shawn's hand trembled as he held the phone. Answer it. I raised my voice. Let me hear what your darling wants from you now. Shawn finally answered. Summer's cloying voice came through. Shawn, where are you? Still playing house with that washed-up woman? I watched Shawn's face turn ashen, and the last vestige of warmth in my heart vanished completely. Aren't you tired of acting? Should I come pick you up? Summer continued her whining. Didn't you say yesterday you'd confront her today? Why are you still dragging your feet? Shawn glanced at me in panic, reaching to hang up. I waved a hand, signaling him to go on. Also, about that house you promised to buy me, when can you arrange it? I've been waiting so long, she pressed. Summer, Shawn finally began to speak. Oh, is that washed-up woman nearby? No worries, just tell the truth. You're going to divorce her eventually anyway, she chirped. I picked up my phone and activated the recording function, intent on capturing every word. Shawn, you promised me before that you'd marry me. I've waited 3 years. I can't wait any longer, she insisted. Shawn finally ended the call. The ward fell into an eerie silence, with Nora sleeping soundly on the bed. Wendy, No need for explanations, I stood up calmly. I've already contacted lawyer Adrian, he'll handle everything. Shawn's eyes widened. Adrian? Yes, the Adrian who has never lost a divorce case, I replied, picking up my bag. Tomorrow, I'll take Nora away temporarily. You sort out your mess. Wendy, you can't do this. Shawn tried to stop me. I pulled out my phone and played the recent recording. All this will be handed to my lawyer. Shawn's face drained of all color. At that moment, the ward door swung open. Adrian entered with his assistant, clad in a sharp suit, and regarded Shawn coldly. Mr. Shawn, please mind your actions, you've already harassed my client. Adrian handed him a document. This is the official paperwork entrusted to me by Ms. Wendy for the divorce proceedings. In 3 days, we will formally file with the court. Furthermore, Adrian's voice grew icier. Based on the evidence we possess, you are suspected of infidelity, domestic violence, and transferring marital assets. I advise you to retain a lawyer promptly. Shawn slumped into the chair. I gently caressed Nora's little face. Nora, Mommy's taking you home. Wendy. Shawn suddenly dropped to his knees. I beg you, don't take Nora away. Without turning back, I said, Shawn, you don't deserve her. As I left the ward, Shawn's anguished sobs echoed behind me. The hotel room Adrian arranged was tranquil. Nora's fever had subsided, and she slept deeply. I sat by her bedside, stroking her soft hair. Wendy, are you tired? Adrian entered, offering a glass of warm water. Not tired, I accepted it, thank you. Adrian sat on the sofa, his expression grave. Nora's condition may not be as straightforward as it appears. My heart tightened. What do you mean? I recommend a thorough examination tomorrow, particularly of her heart, he advised. The glass nearly slipped from my hand. It's just a suggestion, Adrian said gently, for peace of mind. The next morning, I took Nora to the hospital for blood tests, an ECG, and an ultrasound. She indeed has a congenital heart defect and atrial septal defect, the doctor stated calmly. Fortunately, it was caught early. The surgery has a high success rate. I held Nora, tears streaming uncontrollably. My precious baby, my little angel. Mommy, why are you crying? Nora asked in her tender voice. Mommy's fine, I choked back tears. Nora is the bravest. Adrian listened as the doctor explained. Is this condition hereditary? He inquired. There's a certain genetic likelihood, but it's more often linked to environmental factors, such as severe stress or exposure to harmful substances during pregnancy, the doctor replied. A memory flashed through my mind, attending Shawn's company gala when I was 7 months pregnant. Summer was there, dressed in a red gown. Sister-in-law, why are you so plump? She approached with a smile. Pregnancy sure changes things. Then she accidentally pushed me. I fell, immediately experiencing fetal distress. Shawn merely remarked offhandedly, be careful, before rushing to assist Summer. She said her heels were too high, making her unsteady. Shawn had defended her. I was hospitalized for a week to stabilize the pregnancy. Back then, I thought it was an accident. Now, I realize it was deliberate. Wendy? Adrian's voice snapped me back. I've recalled something, I said through gritted teeth. Summer intentionally pushed me while I was pregnant. Adrian's gaze turned icy in an instant. Are you certain? Yes, it was intentional, I affirmed. Back at the hotel, Adrian launched an investigation, yielding preliminary findings within 2 hours. Summer's mother has a documented history of severe mental illness, he said, reviewing the data, and her recent behavior has been highly irregular. What do you mean? She's been purchasing substantial quantities of psychiatric drugs online, Adrian replied, his expression grim. Additionally, a significant sum was transferred from Shawn's account shortly after Summer's return to the country. My hands and feet turned cold. This woman was far more sinister than I'd imagined. What do we do now? Gather evidence and dismantle them in one decisive move, he responded. At that moment, his phone rang. Lawyer Adrian, urgent news. Summer entered Shawn's office with a document. The voice on the line was frantic. It appears to be a relinquishment of Nora's custody, but the beneficiary is listed as Summer. I flung the office door open. A sharp blend of gardenia perfume and tobacco assaulted my senses. Summer nestled close to Shawn, holding a document. Shawn, look at this custody change and joint guardianship agreement. Once Wendy signs, Nora will be our daughter together. My blood surged to my head. She dared to call my daughter our daughter. I'll cherish her like my own, and our little family of 3 will be so happy, Summer continued. Shawn's brow furrowed, appearing conflicted. Spotting Adrian and me, his face paled, and he hurriedly tried to conceal the document. Summer ducked behind him instantly. Shawn. What filthy deal are you striking? Shawn feigned composure. Wendy, calm down. This was Summer's idea to lighten your load in caring for Nora. Lighten my load? I sneered, stepping forward and slamming Nora's latest diagnosis onto the desk. I fixed Summer with a piercing stare. Dare you deny that when I was 7 months pregnant, your push at the company gala was intentional? Her face blanched. I didn't. Sister-in-law, don't slander me. Slander? I pointed at the diagnosis. This illness is your doing. Shawn grabbed the report in shock, his hands trembling. Summer, did you really push Wendy? Adrian stepped forward opportunely. Mr. Shawn, we have evidence proving Miss Summer intentionally harmed Wendy during her pregnancy, and we've also uncovered that Miss Summer's mother has a severe history of mental illness. Miss Summer herself has recently acquired large quantities of psychiatric prescription drugs through illicit channels, he added. I trembled all over. This woman was more terrifying than I'd ever conceived. Moreover, Adrian pressed on, during your marriage to Wendy, Mr. Shawn, at least 3 substantial transfers, totaling millions, were moved from your accounts to Miss Summer's personal account under various pretexts. Shawn stumbled back, staring at Summer in disbelief. Just then, my attention was drawn to a handbag on the floor. Summer's bag, dropped in her panic, its contents strewn about. I swiftly approached and retrieved a black notebook from the scattered items. Opening the first page, I found it filled with meticulous notes on sinister tactics against pregnant women, optimal angles for impacts to induce miscarriage, drugs lethal to fetuses, and detailed vulnerabilities at each pregnancy stage. My hand shook. The subsequent pages bore doodles resembling cursed dolls, marked with crosses, alongside Wendy and Nora written in vivid red ink. I nearly fainted. How do you explain this? I hurled the notebook at Summer. You've been plotting to kill my child from the start. Cornered and seeing the notebook exposed, Summer's eyes widened in terror. She stammered, attempting to justify herself, before abruptly shrieking like a lunatic. Yes. I pushed her. She was in my way. Her voice was shrill and grating. Shawn was meant to be mine. If not for that frail little Nora, he'd have married me long ago. Her face twisted viciously, a stark contrast to her usual pitiful facade, plunging the office into a deathly silence. I wanted her and that little wretch gone. Summer shed all pretense. Wendy, you think you've won? You're just a clueless fool. You hold the title of Shawn's wife but can't even secure your husband's heart. Shawn's face was ashen, his lips quivering. Summer, what are you saying? What am I saying? The truth. Summer ranted wildly. Shawn, you're a pathetic fool too manipulated by me yet fancying yourself a romantic. Did you think I truly loved you? I love your money, the status of being Mrs. Shawn, you idiot. Shawn collapsed into the chair. Unnoticed, Adrian had activated his phone's recording feature and now calmly saved the audio. Madwoman. You're an utter lunatic. Shawn pointed at Summer, trembling all over. Only now seeing her true colors. Shawn, don't you think it's too late? I remarked. Adrian pocketed his phone. Miss Summer, your statements just now constitute threats, defamation, and suspected intentional harm. This recording will be submitted to the police. Summer crumpled to the floor, her face ashen. No, it's not like that. The office door burst open abruptly. Shawn's mother entered with several company directors, her face livid. Evidently, she'd caught wind of the situation. What's going on? The entire company is abuzz," she demanded sharply. Her eyes scanned Summer on the floor, the diagnosis on the desk, and Shawn's pallid face. She grasped it all. Adrian concisely recounted the events, Nora's condition, and Shawn's financial transfers. "You wretch!" Shawn's mother, trembling with rage, delivered a resounding slap across his face, audible throughout the office. "For this venomous woman, you nearly killed my granddaughter and siphoned company funds to support her?" The directors shook their heads in dismay. An elderly one lamented, "Shawn, you've disappointed us gravely. This jeopardizes all shareholders' interests." Shawn clutched his face, meeting his mother's disillusioned gaze and the director's reproaches. He was broken. Utterly finished. His career, family, and reputation all shattered by his own folly. "As of today, you are no longer the group's general manager," Shawn's mother declared firmly. "I'll convene the board immediately to strip you of all positions. Every cent of that dirty money must be returned to the company and Wendy." Then, with disgust, she turned to Summer. "Security. Drag this madwoman out and call the police." As security hauled Summer away, she thrashed wildly, her venomous glare fixed on me. "Wendy. You think you've won? If I suffer, you won't fare better. That little wretch better be tormented by heart disease forever." Shawn's mother, incensed, stepped forward and landed another loud slap on Summer. "Vile woman. Gag her." Security promptly stuffed a cloth in her mouth. The office fell silent at last, save for her muffled struggles. Holding Nora tightly, I addressed Shawn's mother. "Auntie, my marriage to Shawn must end. The marital assets he illegally transferred must be fully returned. I will pursue Summer's harm to my daughter through legal channels to the fullest extent." I pulled the pre-prepared divorce agreement and custody relinquishment statement from my bag and handed them to Shawn. "Sign these. Otherwise, we'll meet in court." Shawn took the papers with trembling hands. "Wendy, I truly didn't know she was like this." "Didn't know?" I sneered. "It's your own blindness and foolishness." At that moment, Shawn's phone rang. He answered shakily, his face growing paler. "What? The bank froze my accounts?" His voice quavered. "Why?" Adrian smiled faintly. "Mr. Shawn, alongside suing you for transferring marital assets, we've applied for asset preservation. All your accounts are now frozen." Shawn collapsed entirely, slumping into the chair. "One more thing," Adrian continued, "we've reported your tax evasion to the authorities. The funds you gave Summer were never taxed." Shawn's mother's expression darkened further. "You wastrel. What else have you done?" Tears streaming, Shawn signed his name stroke by stroke. After signing, he slumped back, defeated. Adrian reviewed the documents for accuracy and stored them. "Madam," Adrian turned to Shawn's mother, "I'll compile a detailed report on the specific amounts and evidence of Mr. Shawn's illegal company fund misuse and marital asset transfers to Summer, to assist the police and your company's investigation." Shawn's mother nodded wearily, her gaze complex as she regarded her wayward son. She approached me. "Wendy, the Shawn family has wronged you and Nora. We'll fully fund Nora's treatment. Henceforth, consider you and Nora as my own daughter and granddaughter." Holding Nora, I remained composed. "Auntie, I appreciate your sentiment, but I only wish for a peaceful life with Nora." The police swiftly intervened. Summer was criminally detained on multiple charges, while Shawn faced further investigation for suspected embezzlement and illegal asset transfers. The Shawn Group erupted in chaos, urgently convening a board meeting to formally oust Shawn from all roles and initiate an audit. Leaving the Shawn building, the sunlight was dazzling. Nora whispered in my arms, "Mommy, let's go home." "Yes, let's go home," I replied. Adrian drove us. On the way, he spoke abruptly. "Wendy, there's something I must tell you." I looked at him as he continued gravely. "Years ago, while Shawn interned at my father's company, he stole my team's core creative proposal, causing massive losses. My father fell gravely ill from the ordeal and soon passed away in despair. Shawn used that proposal to climb the ranks at Shawn Group." I was stunned. Thus, from the outset, my involvement with you and this case, beyond my duties as a lawyer, was indeed driven by a personal desire to avenge my father and seek justice, Adrian said candidly. I aimed to unmask him and make him pay for his past actions. He drew a slightly worn but well-preserved fountain pen from his briefcase. This was my father's favorite pen, used to sign countless key contracts and sketch the prototype of that stolen proposal. Adrian's eyes dimmed. I've kept it with me as a reminder that some debts must be settled. Staring at the pen, I sensed the weight it bore and Adrian's years of restraint and resolve. Then your concern for Nora. My voice quivered. My care for Nora is genuine, Adrian affirmed. Seeing an innocent child suffer due to these sordid adult vendettas, I couldn't remain unmoved. Wendy, I regret exploiting your situation, but toppling Shawn and ensuring he faces justice is a belated righteousness for you, Nora, and me. I closed my eyes. I need time to process this, I said softly. Adrian nodded. I understand. Regardless, if you or Nora need anything, I'll still assist. The car stopped at my building. As I prepared to exit with Nora, she looked up suddenly. Mommy, is Uncle Adrian a good person? Children's questions are always so straightforward. I glanced at Adrian, who awaited my response. Yes, Nora, Uncle Adrian is a good person, I said softly yet resolutely. Surprise flickered in Adrian's eyes before softening. Thank you, Wendy. Nora's surgery was scheduled a week later. For days, I barely left the hospital. Shawn's mother visited daily, bringing top medical teams and costly supplements, her gaze upon Nora brimming with guilt and affection. Wendy, once Nora recovers, move to the suburban villa. The air's fresh and it's peaceful, Shawn's mother offered as amends. I shook my head. Thank you, Auntie, but we have our own plans. The night before the surgery, I stayed awake, holding Nora's small hand, my heart awash with emotions. Adrian remained at the hospital, silent but present. His confession about his past eased me somewhat. At least I now knew his full motives. In the early hours, I stepped into the corridor for air and glimpsed a familiar yet altered figure. Shawn. Clad in ill-fitting old clothes, unshaven, he was a shadow of the once vibrant Shawn executive. He huddled on a bench at the corridor's end, eyes bloodshot, fixated on Nora's ward. Seeing me, he sprang up. Wendy. Nora, how is she? The surgery, it'll go well, right? His eyes radiated fear and supplication. Looking at him now, my resentment seemed to wane. He'd already paid a steep price for his foolishness. She'll be fine, I said calmly. I'm sorry. Wendy, I've wronged you and Nora. Shawn dropped to his knees with a thud, tears gushing. If I could turn back time, I never would have. I'd give everything for Nora's health. Please, let me see her, just once. Nurses and families cast odd looks. I shook my head. Shawn, your priority now is to answer for your actions. Nora has me. She'll recover. With that, I returned to the ward, not looking back. Surgery day was an agonizing wait. The operating room's red light glowed for 5 hours. When the doctor emerged, removed his mask, and smiled, the surgery was a complete success. The child is out of danger. My legs buckled. Adrian caught me just in time. Shawn's mother and I wept in each other's arms, a euphoric release from despair. Nora's recovery progressed more smoothly than anticipated. Adrian was immensely helpful, securing a rehabilitation center and residence in a southern coastal city with a mild climate and excellent medical resources. A new environment offers a fresh start for you and Nora, he said. Looking at him, I saw no trace of his initial complexity, just warmth and sincerity. Perhaps letting go of the past is forgiveness for others and liberation for oneself. A year later, in a sunlit southern town, my floral studio, Sunflower Blooms, had gained modest renown. Nora's health had greatly improved, her rosy cheeks glowed as she flitted through the flowers daily like a joyful sprite. After school, she loved lingering in the studio, watering plants or clumsily learning to arrange bouquets. Mommy, doesn't this sunflower look like me? She asked, holding a freshly bloomed sunflower, her smile crinkling her eyes. I patted her head with a smile. Yes, you're both my little sons. Shawn's mother visited Nora every couple of months, bearing toys and snacks, never mentioning Shawn, just quietly doting on her. I knew Shawn had been sentenced to years in prison for embezzlement and tax evasion, likely still incarcerated. The Shin Group had changed hands, its former glory faded, none of it concerned us anymore. Adrian occasionally visited our town on business, sometimes coming expressly on weekends. He'd bring Nora the latest picture books and toys, build sandcastles with her on the beach, or quietly tend the studio when I was busy. Nora adored Uncle Adrian, always pestering him for stories. A tacit, warm friendship grew between us, relaxed and unintrusive, and I cherished this calm. On the studio's first anniversary, I hosted a small party for regular clients and friends. Adrian arrived first, bearing a pot of vibrantly blooming Sun King sunflowers. "Wendy, congratulations," he said, his eyes warm with a gentle smile. "Sunflower blooms lives up to its name." I took the pot, my fingertips brushing his hand inadvertently. I smiled awkwardly. "Thank you, Adrian. This year, your help made a difference." He gazed at me, his eyes deepening as if poised to speak. Just then, my phone rang jarringly. I answered, puzzled. "Wendy?" A familiar voice came through. It was Shawn. "Released? Or?" I froze, my smile stiffening. Adrian noticed and approached with concern. "What's wrong?" "Shawn? I'm still inside. I finally got this call chance. I heard you opened a flower shop. Is today special for you? I just wanted to congratulate you." "Shawn, what do you want?" The guests sensed the shift and hushed. Adrian stood by me, silently supportive. "I mean no harm. Time here has given me much to reflect on. I just want to know, is Nora okay? Has she fully recovered? I know I've no right, but I miss her dearly." His voice trembled with suppressed sobs, punctuated by a guard's urging through the receiver. My hand shook. The painful past felt like yesterday. "She's well, better than ever. Healthy, happy, thriving in a place free of lies and betrayal." Good. Shawn murmured. "Wendy, I know my sins are grave, I've wronged you both. I don't seek forgiveness, just to know she's okay. When I'm out, if possible, could I see her from afar?" "Shawn," I cut him off, "Nora's life is peaceful and joyful now. She doesn't need a father who once deeply hurt her and her mother to reappear, disrupting the security she's finally built. Your compensation or just one look could be a new disturbance for her." I understand. Time's almost up," he said hurriedly. "Let the past stay past. We're even now. I hope you'll genuinely reform, serve your sentence well, and leave us be. This is my final request for you and Nora." A heavy sigh came from the other end, followed by a busy tone. The call ended. The studio was silent. I looked up into Adrian's worried eyes. "It's fine, just an insignificant person." The party resumed, but I was distracted. After the last guest left, Adrian stayed to help clean. "He's still inside, he can't disturb you anytime soon," he assured me confidently. I nodded, gazing out the window where the sunset painted the sky a warm orange. Nora chased a butterfly in the yard. "Wendy," Adrian stepped beside me, standing shoulder to shoulder. "The past is closed. The future is yours alone." He paused, his gaze tender yet firm. "If you're willing, I'd like to join you on that journey." As I wavered, Nora dashed over with a freshly drawn picture, proudly showing it to Adrian and me. "Mommy, Uncle Adrian, look. It's Mommy, me, and Uncle Adrian flying a kite at the beach together." The three figures in the drawing held hands, beaming. Nora looked up innocently. "Uncle Adrian, can you always play with Mommy and me?" Adrian gently patted her head, then looked at me, his eyes brimming with hope. Just then, my phone rang again, an unknown number. Hesitating, I answered. "Hello, is this Ms. Wendy?" "I'm Mr. Shawn's lawyer." "Mr. Shawn has late-stage liver cancer. Doctors say he has 6 months left. His sole dying wish is to see Ms. Nora before he passes. He acknowledges his grave sins, seeks no forgiveness, just atonement. He's prepared to bequeath all his usable assets to Ms. Nora as belated compensation." The voice droned on, but I couldn't listen further. I hung up, nearly dropping the phone. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Nora sensed my distress, tugging my sleeve with her little hand. I crouched and hugged her. Her warmth steadied me. It's nothing, sweetie. Mommy just recalled some old memories. Adrian watched us quietly, saying nothing. That night, after Nora slept, Adrian and I sat in the living room. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I'm wondering if Nora, grown up, learns her father wanted to see her before dying and I refused. Will she hate me?" "She won't," Adrian said firmly, "you're protecting her. A father who truly loves his child wouldn't cause her further harm when she most needs security." I looked at him, resolve forming in my eyes. "Adrian, I want to accept what you said earlier." He paused, then smiled the gentlest smile I'd seen. "I'll take good care of you and Nora." "I know," I replied, "because you always have." Outside, sunflowers swayed softly in the night breeze. Sunflowers bloom toward the light the future holds promise.